In the sprawling dark saga of Jeffrey Epstein, one word has captured the public imagination more than any other: the list. For years, it's been the subject of intense speculation, a rumored master document naming every powerful individual connected to his criminal enterprise. With every new court-ordered release of documents, the internet ignites, with millions of people hunting for names, searching for smoking guns, and trying to connect the dots. But the reality of the Epstein files is far more complex than a single damning list. It's a labyrinth of legal papers, flight logs, personal calendars, and private emails. And a name appearing in these documents can mean many things. It doesn't automatically signify guilt or even association. So what happens when one of the biggest names in modern media, Joe Rogan, shows up in the files? The internet exploded with theories. But what does the evidence actually say? Let's count down the 10 key facts you need to understand the connection, or lack thereof, between Joe Rogan, Jeffrey Epstein, and the infamous list. Number 10. The so-called list isn't a list at all. This is the most critical piece of context. When news outlets report on the Epstein list, they are referring to a massive, ongoing unsealing of documents related to a 2015 civil lawsuit filed by victim Virginia Giuffre against Ghislaine Maxwell. These are not new criminal charges from the Department of Justice. The documents include depositions, witness testimonies, email exchanges, and address book entries. They contain the names of hundreds of people. Some are victims. Some are alleged co-conspirators. Some are employees, like pilots or house staff. And many are simply individuals who, for one reason or another, crossed paths with Epstein or his associates, professionally or socially, without any hint of wrongdoing. The court's goal in unsealing these documents is transparency, but without careful reading, that transparency can be easily twisted into misinformation. The idea of a single curated list of clients is a myth. The reality is a chaotic data dump that requires careful, case-by-case analysis. Number 9. The sheer volume of data is staggering. To understand why context is so easily lost, you have to appreciate the scale. In January 2024, the first major wave of documents from the Giuffre lawsuit was released, totaling thousands of pages. But this was just one part of a much larger trove of information. Separate from that civil case, the FBI has its own mountain of evidence. In a 2023 response to a Freedom of Information Act request, the Department of Justice revealed it was processing over 3 million pages of documents related to its investigation into Epstein. This cache also includes an astonishing 2,000 videos and 180,000 images. The process of reviewing, redacting, and potentially releasing this material will take years, if not decades. This slow, piecemeal release of information creates an environment where every small detail can be blown out of proportion, long before the full picture is available. Number 8. Joe Rogan's name appears in the files for a completely mundane reason. Amidst the millions of pages and thousands of names, Rogan's name was flagged by online sleuths. But the context, as documented in the released emails, was entirely innocuous. The mention is tied to financial transactions made by Epstein. Specifically, records show payments for UFC pay-per-view events. As the lead commentator for the UFC for over 2 decades, Joe Rogan's name and voice are synonymous with the brand. It's plausible his name was mentioned in the description of the purchase, similar to how a credit card statement might list HBO Game of Thrones. This is a classic example of how a name can appear in financial records without any direct contact or relationship. Epstein buying a UFC event is no different than him buying a book on Amazon or a ticket to a movie. It's a transaction, not a connection. This crucial detail is often omitted in the breathless social media posts claiming Rogan is on the list. Number 7. Epstein actively tried to get on the Joe Rogan Experience. This is where the story gets more direct. An email from 2017, unsealed as part of the document dump, reveals a clear attempt by Epstein to manufacture a connection. The email shows Epstein writing to the physicist and author Lawrence Krauss. Krauss had recently been a guest on the Joe Rogan Experience, one of the most popular podcasts in the world. In the exchange, Epstein asks Krauss to introduce him to Rogan. This move was part of a broader, well-documented strategy by Epstein, especially after his initial 2008 conviction. He aggressively sought proximity to respected figures in science, media, and academia to launder his reputation and present himself as a misunderstood intellectual and philanthropist. Getting a platform as large as Rogan's would have been a massive coup for his public rehabilitation tour. The email is proof of Epstein's interest in Rogan, but crucially, it is not proof of Rogan's interest in Epstein. It shows one person knocking on a door. It doesn't show the door ever being opened. Number 6. The invitation was declined. This is the part of the story Joe Rogan has told himself. On his podcast, Rogan has addressed the rumors head-on. He recounted being approached with the offer to have Jeffrey Epstein on the show. According to Rogan, his response was immediate and decisive. He said he did a quick Google search on Epstein, saw the nature of the accusations against him, and instantly rejected the idea. In a conversation with guest Cheryl Hines, Rogan explained that his name was likely in the files. Precisely, he said no. He joked that there might be a note somewhere in Epstein's records that says, Joe Rogan, declined invitation. His public account paints a picture not of complicity, but of repulsion. He described his reaction to the suggestion with his signature bluntness, saying he thought, quote, "Are you high? Get the fuck out of here." This public statement provides his side of the story, corroborating the idea that while an approach was made, it was swiftly shut down. Number 5. The official documents offer no proof of a cover-up or a client list. Let's go back to that massive DOJ document dump we mentioned earlier. While the headlines focused on the 3 million pages, the official memo that accompanied the release contained two very important conclusions from the Department of Justice's Office of the Inspector General. First, the report stated there was no evidence that Epstein was murdered. Despite widespread conspiracy theories, the official cause of death remains suicide. Second, and more relevant to the rumors, the memo explicitly stated that investigators found no proof that Epstein even kept a formal client list. This finding from the highest levels of the investigation undermines the entire premise of a single secret book filled with the names of co-conspirators. It reinforces the reality that the list is a composite of many different, unrelated documents, not a centralized ledger of criminality. Number 4. The burden of proof is on the accuser. In our legal system and in the court of public opinion, the principle is supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. However, in the age of social media, that is often flipped on its head. When a name like Joe Rogan's appears in a document dump, the immediate assumption for many is guilt by association. But the evidence available simply doesn't support the accusations. The documented connection is a third-party attempt at an introduction that was, by Rogan's own public account, rejected. The other mention is a mundane financial transaction for a UFC event. To make the leap from that to claims of involvement in Epstein's criminal activities requires ignoring all available facts. The burden of proof lies with those making the extraordinary claim, and to date, no credible evidence has been presented by reporters or investigators to suggest any illegal or unethical contact between Rogan and Epstein. Number 3. Journalists who have investigated the files have found no wrongdoing by Rogan. It's not just a lack of evidence. It's that professional reporters who have dedicated their careers to this story have not uncovered a link. Journalists from major outlets like the Miami Herald, the New York Times, and the Wall Street Journal have spent years poring over these records. They have broken nearly every major development in the Epstein saga. If there were any credible evidence in the millions of pages of documents suggesting Joe Rogan was a passenger on Epstein's plane, a visitor to his island, or a participant in any illegal activity, it would have been a major international headline. The fact that the only connections found are so trivial and easily explained is, in itself, evidence of his non-involvement. The silence of the serious investigative press on this specific angle speaks volumes. They follow the evidence, and the evidence simply does not lead to Joe Rogan. Number 2. This is a textbook case of context collapse. Context collapse is a term used to describe what happens when a piece of information is stripped of its original context and broadcast to a vast, unintended audience. The Epstein files are a perfect example. A name mentioned in a specific, narrow context, like a financial record or a rejected invitation, is pulled out and presented as a standalone fact. Joe Rogan is in the Epstein files. Without the surrounding details, the statement is technically true but deeply misleading. It allows people to fill in the blanks with their own biases and suspicions. This phenomenon is supercharged by algorithms that reward engagement, not accuracy. A sensationalist, context-free claim will always travel faster and wider than a nuanced factual explanation. Understanding this dynamic is key to navigating the information landscape around not just this story, but any complex, high-profile event. The goal of misinformation is often not to convince you of a lie, but to make you confused enough to distrust the truth. And the number one most important thing to remember: presence in the documents does not equal involvement. This is the fundamental principle that gets lost in the noise. The Epstein files are not a black book, they are an archive. And like any archive, they contain a mix of the damning, the mundane, and the irrelevant. Stephen Hawking's name appears because he attended a science conference funded by Epstein. Donald Trump's name appears, as does Bill Clinton's. The reasons for their inclusion are varied and require individual examination. To treat every name as an indictment is a profound mistake that not only slanders innocent people, but also distracts from the real victims and perpetrators. In the case of Joe Rogan, the evidence points to one conclusion. He was a target for Epstein's campaign of reputation laundering, an attempt that failed. The documents confirm an attempted contact and a mundane financial transaction. Nothing more. Bottom line, the connection is a product of speculation, fueled by context collapse, not by evidence of wrongdoing. In a story this complicated, with stakes this high, the temptation to jump to conclusions is powerful. But the truth requires patience and precision. So before you share that viral post or accept a rumor as fact, stay sharp, read the sources, and don't buy the rumor without the receipts.